a bigger attendance from our partners in the town and community councils at the next meeting, and we'll continue to work closely with them on that. Okay, can I welcome all members and officers to the October meeting of the Town and Community Council Forum, which, due to government advice to practice social distancing, the meeting has been held once again virtually. The meeting is being recorded, and that recording is beginning, and the recording will be available via the Council's website to be viewed following the meeting. Everyone participating in the meeting will be accessing this meeting from remote locations. Please could everybody ensure that mobile phones are switched off or to silent mode. Members will have received an electronic copy of the agenda. I will ask the relevant officers to present a summary of the key points. For the record, the agenda can be viewed on the Council's website. Members and officers will be speaking at various points during the meeting, and those speaking may switch their cameras on at that point, but I would ask that, with the exception of myself as chairperson, at all other times you keep your cameras and microphones switched off, as this will help to minimise any background noise and interference and to ensure that the connection remains as stable as possible. Any members and officers wish to raise a point or question, they should use the instant messaging IM icon in the bottom left of the Skype window and simply type speak. And I will come to you in the order I receive requests. Please do not use your microphone until I invite you to do so. Officers from Democratic Services will be supporting the meeting and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout the meeting, and when necessary will mute those not being used. Before we formally commence, I will now ask the officer from Democratic Services to announce the names of the councillors in attendance at this meeting. I would also ask the officers to introduce themselves as and when I invite them to speak during the course of the meeting. They too should ensure microphones and cameras are switched off when not in use. So Andrew will announce those members in attendance.
Thank you, Leader. For the benefit of the recording, my name is Andrew Rees, Democratic Services Manager. Those members who are in attendance this evening are Town Councillor Kerry Rees, representing Maesteg Town Council, Councillor Hussain, representing Newcastle Higher Community Council, Councillor Charles Smith, Councillor Keith Edwards, Councillor Hugh David, Councillor James Radcliffe, Councillor John Paul Blundell, Councillor Kay Rowlands, Councillor Ken Watts, Councillor Richard Young, Councillor Sadie Vidal, Councillor Sean Aspey, Councillor Sorrel Dendy, Councillor Stuart Baldwin, Councillor David Evans representing Kevin Cribble Community Council, Town Councillor Jonathan Pratt representing Porthcawl Town Council, and I think that's it, I believe, Leader.
Okay. So if there is any member present who was not read out in that list, could you indicate now for the record, please? No? Okay. Well, we'll now go through the agenda as published. The apologies for absence is the first item on the agenda. Andrew, please.
I have no apologies, Leader.
You have no apologies? Okay. Are there any apologies from members? Councillor Baldwin, please.
Thank you, Leader. It's just to say that Councillor Sedgbury sends her apologies, but she is hoping to join within the next 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Baldwin. We will now receive declarations of interest. If any member or officer has an interest to declare in any matter on the agenda, please type speak into the meeting chat, and I will come to you in turn for you to announce your declaration of interest. Councillor Dendy, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say I sit on the Public Service Board, so I just want to make that clear because that's up in the agenda today.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Dendy. Are there any other declarations of interest from members, please? Councillor Baldwin, please.
Just that I am also a town councillor on Bridgend Town Council.
Okay, I do not believe that we need to take declarations of membership of town and community councils, Councillor Baldwin, but I'll check now with Andrew. But thank you for flagging that up. Andrew, please.
No, Leader, it's not necessary to make those declarations, but I've noted Councillor Dendy's being a member of the Public Service Board.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Councillor Radcliffe, please.
Yeah, I was just going to declare being a member of Newcastle High Community Council as well, but in light of those comments, it's not necessary now.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Radcliffe. Better to be safe than sorry, isn't it? Okay, so approval of minutes of the meeting of the 10th of December. Can I have a mover and seconder for those minutes, please?
Move.
Thank you, Councillor Baldwin. And a seconder, please.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Blundell. All agreed? Okay, thank you, colleagues. I will take silence as assent. We will now receive our first report on road adoptions, and that will be a report presented by our Group Manager for Planning and Development Services, Jonathan Parsons. Jonathan, please.
Thank you, Leader. I'm Jonathan Parsons, as the leader has indicated. I'm the Group Manager for Planning and Development, and that's the service area that encompasses town planning matters and highway adoptions. Members will see the detailed report that's part of the agenda papers, and I'm quite happy to answer any queries or questions on that at the end of the presentation. Road adoption is a complex legal and engineering process which encompasses a number of different service areas, including planning. Highways are involved, and the legal services are involved. So it's quite a very sort of meaty subject, and it does require a lot of council input. The local authority has the function of the highway authority and is responsible for ensuring that new estate roads are developed and completed to an adoptable standard. And this means they are fit for purpose and up to a required technical standard. And that must include all the necessary infrastructure, such as adequate curbing, the surfacing needs to be appropriate, tactile surfacing needs to be included where appropriate as well. That also includes lighting and as well as highway drainage. And once adopted, the local authority then assumes full responsibility for the maintenance, upkeep and repair of the new highway. So it's quite important that before that responsibility is taken on, that the new highway is built up to those adoptable standards, and there are a set of legal processes to go through to ensure that under the Highways Act. On a larger development, it's not uncommon for full adoption to happen for a number of years, and the reasoning behind that is if you've got several thousand houses on a development, it's quite possible that it'll be done in phases, and whilst construction is underway, it's not appropriate then to seek adoption until all the construction traffic and construction work has moved off site. New development may also necessitate the alterations to an existing highway. It may require a new junction onto a main road, there may be a new roundabout or an active travel route, and these features will also need to be adopted as highway. It should be noted there's no legal requirement for developers to pursue adoption agreements, and in theory a new housing estate could be completed with private roads. the future maintenance of these roads then have to be funded from future resident contributions. And these, I would add, are very few and far between on major developments, but on much smaller scale schemes, it's not uncommon for developments to go ahead with shared private access arrangements of houses up to 5 or 6 houses off a shared access is not uncommon. New estate development is by far main area of work for the planning and highways team. Members will be aware that there has been considerable publicity of late about developers leaving sites without completing roads to adoptable standards. There are maybe a number of reasons behind this. Quite possibly developers may go into receivership. There may be technical reasons. There could be delays in completing developments on site. But the matter has come to the attention of Welsh Government, and a working group was set up in 2018 to look at the matter, and that was incorporated local authorities and planning, highway officers, Welsh Government officers, the home building industry, the Welsh Local Government Association were heavily involved. And unsurprisingly, the working group or the task force became aware that the scale of the problem is quite significant. That there's no easy answer to dealing with road adoption issues, and there is limited opportunity without large-scale financial intervention to improve matters. Nevertheless, the group also looked at other initiatives such as agreeing a good practice guide and adopting a set of national standards which on the basis that this will reduce any future problems coming forward. So all these issues and suggestions and proposals are being wrapped up into a report, and that's now will be going towards to the appropriate minister in due course. Apart from new estate development and new roads, the local authority may also adopt existing or private and adopted roads. These could be historical roads that have been there for some time. The problem with this is that it's difficult if the road in question is not currently up to standards. We couldn't, as an authority, take on a substandard road because we would then be responsible for bringing that up to standards. Quite a big financial risk involved with that. And unfortunately, at present, there's no routine programme to adopt private roads at this stage. I think that provides a brief synopsis of the report, and I'm quite happy to take any questions on that if there are any. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Jonathan. That's a very helpful overview of the report. Thank you to Councillor Sedgeby who's joined us, and for your apologies. And I can see we've got 2 questions from Councillor Dendy and then Councillor Dendy first.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Jonathan, for the report. I understand that with the historical sort of roads, the roads that have been unadopted, I understand the financial implications of the fact that if these roads are in a really severe state, the implications of bringing them up to standard. One of the problems we do have, though, especially in valley communities like mine, is the historical roads that are there. There is also a question about who owns the land and who built the road in the first place. I've come across several of these issues that I've put in, and the community councillors also put in about them as well. Is there any look about how we can go around that? Because some of these unadopted roads in the state they're in are causing major issues for the residents. And as a case of this one patch in particular, it's about 2 metres worth of road, unadopted, no idea who the ownership and who the land is. But this is causing major problems for residents. So is there a case that there is a look at any of these historical roads, looking at the ownership and contacting them about the state of it? And if there is no known ownership of that road or who built it, is that something then that could be looked at for the council to take up, as there is no other alternative? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dendy. This is one of the areas that the task force that the Welsh Government has set up is looking at, as outlined in the report, and they are working to establish the full scale and extent of the problem, aren't they, Jonathan? And then looking to make recommendations once the scaliness and extent of the problem has been established. Did you want to add any more?
No, I think you've summed it up there, Leader. Perhaps just to add that this is a major issue, not just in Bridgend, and is across Wales, and the problem is quite acute in rural and urban areas. And in Carmarthenshire, for example, you could have an unadopted road that's about 3 miles long. But as you indicated before, it will take a substantial financial intervention to allow local authorities to actually do anything meaningful on this. It's easy enough to try and establish where ownership lies, but quite often when we've tried to do this in the past, there is no registered owner, and that means that the people that are living off that road have to take responsibility for it, and there's a big financial burden on those individual householders then to maintain it. So understand that could be of some concern, but as I mentioned before, in order for the local authority to take it on, it would require considerable improvement, and at the moment there is no funding stream available to allow us to do that.
Okay, thanks, Jonathan. But certainly we'll keep members updated on that and all the outcomes and recommendations of the working group, because you're right to flag it up, Councillor Dendy. Absolutely, it's an issue right across Wales, isn't it, Jonathan? In all county boroughs and in most communities, there's an unadopted road or an unadopted lane, at least one. And sometimes there are several.
Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Reeves is next, please.
Hi, following on from that, the previous question. So, would there be any appetite if unadopted roads were brought up to spec by a minor authority? Would there be any appetite to adopt those roads if they were brought up to spec?
Absolutely, if they're brought up to the standard that we require, we would welcome that, wouldn't we, Jonathan? Because we recognise the importance of strengthening the public highway network, particularly where there's existing residential developments and communities. Then certainly we would be more than happy to do that if minor authorities were prepared to commit to that undertaking.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reeves. That's a good question. Councillor Hussain is next, please.
Thank you very much, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, Councillor Hussain.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I could not really get it through. My question is, yes, there are unadopted roads in many areas. Is it not right for the council to come up with all those areas and put them in a book form, circulate them so that we all know? Otherwise it becomes every time it's a problem, to whether it is there, whether it's not there, who does this road belong to? Like in Panama, we have many roads and I don't know who they belong to. They're good roads, better roads, which ought to have been adopted by the council a long time ago. Why they are not adopted, I don't know. Some of them belong to no man's land and people are living there. and they are living with these crutches and wheelchairs, and they can't communicate really. They can't get into their homes, they can't get into their vehicles. So it is a problem. I would be grateful if it is looked properly into, and it is a help to our all residents really in the county.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Councillor Hussain. Jonathan, do you want to respond to Councillor Hussain, please?
I think the Councillor Hussain raises a very valid point, and there are roads that we're aware of as a highway authority that are unadopted, and some of these roads are in a pretty appalling state. Part of the task force, one of the recommendations in the task force is to establish a database of all unadopted roads, and this will be on a sort of authority to authority basis. So using wonders of technology and mapping systems, it is feasible to do that, and that's one of the recommendations, is to secure some government resource to actually allow that to happen and to take that on as a mapping exercise. It's it's quite a significant problem. We're aware of that, but hopefully having that register would allow us to keep track of the unadopted roads, and also members of the public who may be wishing to purchase houses or living on these areas would be able to access that as well. So it's something that we would seek to have as a sort of publicly available resource.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, Councillor Hussain. And that then can be accessed alongside the public highway network maps, which are already available, aren't they, Jonathan? And perhaps what we can do is just check to see. I don't know if the last intake of members ever received that for the communities that they represent. I remember having one some time ago, but I don't know which year that was in, and it could have been back in the depths of time. So you can do that, because that is a useful reference point for members, because even if it does not indicate ownership or responsibility for all routes and paths and roads, it certainly shows the highways that the local authority are responsible for, which is the key question that most people want answers to.
Yeah, it is on bridge maps, Peter.
Bridge maps, right? Yes, yeah. That's something I must admit I'm still struggling to to master, but we'll look to see if something that can be, I don't know, Jonathan, you're more technical than me. I know you've got some excellent officers that perhaps could produce something that could be circulated that doesn't require a level of expertise with bridge maps that we could share. Okay, I'll bring Councillor Radcliffe in next, please.
Yeah, hello. I'm just wondering about the recommendations on 4.9 and whether it's the intention to go ahead and look at adopting those recommendations as policy or not, because they seem sensible and I'd support them.
Okay, thanks, Jonathan. I know that these are recommendations that Cabinet and CMB have considered, haven't we, Jonathan? And we're all supportive.
I think at the moment it's going to be with the Minister. It's not official yet. What we've got is a set of recommendations, and hopefully the Minister will, I believe it's Ken Skates, I think, is responsible for this. If he's happy with that, and it hopefully will go back to authorities then to adopt. So we're hopeful that that's going to be the case.
It would help if I turned my microphone on, wouldn't it? Thanks, Jonathan. I think I'm just pulling the report back up. It seems to have disappeared from my my screen, but I think there were recommendations from the Welsh government task force, and then recommendations that you've also made as well, Jonathan. Just pulling that report back up. Okay, I will bring Councillor Pratt in next, please. And is this one of your first meetings, Councillor Pratt?
It is, Councillor David, and thank you very much. Just following on from Councillor Reeves, an interesting point on minor authorities doing the work to bring up to standard. Would the local authority contribute financially, either partly 50-50, some sort of, to assist minor authorities if they were to bring up unadopted roads to standard?
Okay, and welcome to your first meeting, Councillor Pratt. We look forward to working with you. That is something potentially we can certainly consider, and we can give that, as I say, some consideration and get back to you on that point. We would just need to try and think about the extent of that commitment, but we're certainly open to working with town and community councils on this problem. Thank you, Councillor Pratt. And just a question then from Councillor Reeves. Do we have access to Bridgend maps? I think it's only staff and members of the authority, Jonathan, that have access to Bridgend maps, if I'm correct.
I know definitely staff and members, Leader. I believe, and I'm not entirely sure of it now because the question has been raised, but I believe that our IT team were looking at a public-facing accessible mapping system where you could actually easily get information such as adopted roads, highway extents and planning applications and so forth. I'm not entirely sure now if that's actually been taken forward or is operational. It's something we'll have to find out. But that was the intention. It was a part of helping people to help themselves with online resources. But I'll have to check on that. But I was up until now fairly confident that it was happening. But maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, well, if you could check on that, that would be very helpful, Jonathan. And we will certainly look to having those maps. If we are able to produce some maps, is sharing them with town and community council clerks. We can look at that, Jonathan, as well, I'm sure. Okay, well, I can't see any other indications that the people want to speak. I know this is a topic of interest to members, so I would suggest that we have a report back when there is progress to report back, Jonathan, from the task force and the recommendations for the way that we operate as well. So some potential changes to the way that we operate, and we can bring that back to members. So members happy to note the report, please.
Yeah, move.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Councillor Denny, did you want to speak? Councillor Hussain a second. Yeah.
Thanks, Chair. I just wanted to say, could we also, are we also voting on the recommendation to be put forward that the council looks at doing a sort of 50-50, etc., with minor local authorities on improving roads?
Yeah, no, not at this stage. So the only recommendation is that the forum notes the report. We will certainly consider that suggestion. And come back to members on that. Certainly do that. Thanks, Councillor Dendy. Councillor Reeves, you wanted to come in.
Yeah, could we move a motion instead then that minor authorities are encouraged to put forward roads and lanes that are at specification, put them forward for adoption, formal adoption.
I'll check with Jonathan. We just need to be careful about the implications of that, and be clear about the wording. So we can there's certainly commitment to that and come back to members quite quickly. Jonathan.
Yes, Lee, I think we will be careful, as I'm not currently resourced to undertake that sort of operation at the moment. Don't have a team that can actually do that. If a community council or town council area wishes to suggest a lane that may well be acceptable for adoption, then we can certainly look at that. But this would involve looking at discussing also with area that's not within my responsibility. So there would be, like, road safety officers would need to check on it. There are processes involved that are not something that I would cover. So I can't speak for my colleagues in other teams that would have to be involved with this. But if there is a particular area or road or lane that you feel that could be adopted, we could certainly consider it. But as I said, we don't have a program or a system in place that allows that to happen easily at the moment. And part of the reason for that is that we are waiting for the task force and the minister's response to the task force as to whether there is going to be anything additional resource to local authorities to allow them to progress that. So at the moment, if I couldn't commit, I couldn't actually 100% commit to say that's something that we can actually do at the moment physically, or in a resource sense either. I don't know if that's particularly helpful, but it is the unfortunate position we're in.
Okay, thanks, Jonathan. There's certainly that commitment there, Councillor Reeves, that we will take that away and look at it. The other aspect that we need to think about carefully is whether or not Welsh Government make resources available through the task force, and we could use that. So we will look at that and certainly come back to members with an update. Yeah, we'll certainly do that. Thanks, Councillor Reeves. Travel list ready by all. Okay. Thanks everyone. So I think that's been a very helpful update. And we will now move on to, and thanks so much for that, Jonathan. We've given you a few action points there that I'm sure you'll take away and follow up as soon as possible. You're very welcome to stay if you want to, but I'm sure you're very busy. So we will now move on to the Bridgend Public Services Board. Thank you very much, Jonathan. We will receive a report from Judith Jones, our Partnerships and Community Safety Manager. Judith, please.
Thank you very much, Leader. And thanks to everybody for listening to me this afternoon. You've all had the report already, and I won't go through it line by line, but just a quick synopsis really. I want to come to talk to you today about the work of Bridgend Public Service Board, particularly in relation to the assessment of wellbeing and the development of the next wellbeing plan for Bridgend, and also to talk a little bit about the responsibilities of some town and community councils under the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. So just a little bit of background. Bridgend PSB was established on the 1st of April 2016 following the implementation of the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act. More information about the PSB itself can be found on the website, and I've put a link to the webpage in the report. The first thing the PSB did when it was incepted was do an assessment of the well-being of Bridgend. So it looked at the economic, social, environmental and cultural well-being of the county, and it published its first well-being assessment in April 2017. They then used that assessment to develop the first wellbeing plan, which was published in May 2018. And again, anybody can see a copy of the plan on the website, and I've included a link in the report. The wellbeing assessment and planning cycle is linked to the local government election cycles. So the next wellbeing assessment must be published no later than 1 year before we publish the wellbeing plan, and the wellbeing plan must be published no later than 1 year after the next ordinary election. So in practice, this means the next wellbeing assessment will be published by the 30th of April 2022, and the wellbeing plan then the following year in April 2023. Developing the wellbeing assessment is a really extensive piece of work, and it says your work will commence early in 2021, but in fact we've already started to do some work, because we've currently been looking at an assessment, a community assessment on the impact of COVID-19. So a lot of the data and information that we've already collected for the impact assessment will help us with the wellbeing assessment. I've put a bit of a timeline in there so to help members understand what will happen when. Town and community councils are statutory consultees for both the wellbeing assessment and the wellbeing plan. The Act itself places duties on certain community and town councils to take all reasonable steps towards meeting the objectives in the local wellbeing plan, and that has effect in their areas. So any community or town council is subject to that duty if their gross income or expenditure is at least £200,000 for each of the 3 financial years preceding the year in which the local wellbeing plan is published. So in this case, it will be for the next 3 years up to 2023 when we publish the plan. When we did the last assessment and plan, it was Bridgend, Maesteg and Porthcawl town councils who met the criteria for that duty under the Act. If a town or community council is subject to the duty, it must publish a report each relevant financial year detailing the progress it has made in meeting the objectives in the local wellbeing plan. There's statutory guidance that goes alongside the Act, and it's called Shared Purpose, Shared Future, and there's a specific piece of guidance for town and community councils. And again, I've popped a link in there that you can follow to have a look at the guidance. Any town or community council who don't meet the criteria under Section 40 of the Act but still wish to contribute towards meeting the objectives in the wellbeing plan are welcome to do so on a voluntary basis. Just for information, I think last year I actually went to talk to the clerks to the town and community councils and offered support from my little team to anybody who wanted us to come and talk more, either to the council or to the clerks themselves about annual reporting. And we did some work with Porthcawl Town Council. I think the clerk is no longer in post, but we did some, and that offer still stands. If anybody would like us to come and talk to you about annual reporting and the wellbeing plan, we're more than happy to do so. Bridgend PSB has always recognised the important role that town and community councils play in improving the wellbeing of Bridgend, and to this end they invited representatives of this forum to join what we call the Asset Subboard of the PSB. I actually came to the forum in November 2018 to ask for nominations to join the PSB Asset Subboard, and Councillor Baldwin and Councillor Blundell kindly agreed to become members, and since have been actively involved in workshops and the activities of the subboard. We chose that subboard because it focuses on issues such as improving and protecting green spaces and helping local people to use their natural and built environment to improve their well-being, and that seems to have worked quite well. So Bridgend PSB would like to further involve town and community councils and the forum in the development of the next wellbeing assessment and wellbeing plan, because we know that you are the ones who can help ensure that local people's views are sort of articulated in the plan. So from January onwards, we will be contacting individual town and community councils to ask them to become more involved in the assessment of wellbeing and to share some of our plans for how we want to engage with local communities to further understand the state of wellbeing in the area. So that's it really. That's what I wanted to do, was just to explain a bit about PSB, make an offer of help to any town and community council who would like us to come and visit you to talk about reporting in the annual report, and to ask for help for and when we come to look at our wellbeing assessment for next year. So happy to take any questions if anybody's got any.
Thank you for that overview, Judith. Very helpful. And are there any questions for Judith on the report, please? Councillor Baldwin, please.
Thank you, Leader. Sorry if there's any background noise, but I got 2 dogs and a loud partner. Judith, I just wanted to check on the PSB, on the community impact assessment, when we might be expecting that back. Asking from both sides really, obviously to involve as Bridgend Town Council, but because of the chair of the COVID recovery panel, is going to feed into our next lot of work. So I was just wondering what the progress is on that, so that we can kick on. And yes, very happy having been a representative with JP and John Spanswick, I think, as well. It's been really useful coming along to those meetings and seeing the connections.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, we're almost there. We've received the draft from Data Cymru actually on Friday, and that's gone round to PSB members now to make comments, and we're hoping that they will sign it off next week. There's a small subgroup of the PSB meeting on the 4th, which is next Wednesday, I think, and then they will sign off the final version of the impact assessment. And I think you will find it very useful. It's very comprehensive, and so it can be circulated as soon as PSB sign it off next Wednesday.
Okay, thanks for that, Judith. Councillor Blundell is next, please.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Judith, for the presentation, and also thank you that we'll be able to see that report sooner rather than later. My question actually isn't to the report, it's actually a question of, it's more of a question of the makeup of the committee, because obviously I am on the committee as a community councillor, the asset subgroup board, but I've also taken over from John Spanswick's chairmanship, and I believe that's also where he's on it. So I was wondering if take this moment to see if any other community councillor would like to come on it to take my place, as I'm already on it. If that made any sense. It did in my head.
Okay. Judith, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, always happy for further members to join the asset sub board. More than welcome. I think as both councillors have said, they are a very active board, and they've done a lot recently. They just had a grant from NRW to do some more work. So yeah, more than welcome if anybody would like to join. If you just email me, my email address is at the end of the report, and then I can send you meeting requests, terms of reference, last minute, so that you'll have a bit of understanding of the work of the board. But yes, more than happy. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Judith, and that offer and invite is there for anyone that wants to take it up. It is a very inclusive board, the Public Service Board, and wants to take on board the views and the input of town and community councils as much as possible. Okay, are there any other members that wish to speak? No. Okay. Well, we've got the recommendations there. We've considered the report, and we've got an action there for any town and community council that wants to come forward, and a reminder to our 3 town councils that currently meet the criteria in the Act that we are there to help, aren't we, Judith? And we want to help the 3 town councils meet their statutory duties under the Act. So in whichever way Judith can do that on behalf of the Public Services Board, then she do it, because it's a legal requirement, isn't it, Judith? It's not an option. Obviously, that requirement is not in place for other town and community councils across Bridgend, because they are smaller in size than Bridgend, call them my stake. Okay, well, thank you, Judith, and Judith's contact details are there. She's a first-class officer, so if you've got any problems, then go to Judith. Not about anything, but certainly any issues around not just the Public Service Board, but community safety. Then Judith is our lead officer, and more than happy to help. So, are we going to mover of the recommendations, please?
Move.
Thank you, Councillor Dennis. Second, and that's Councillor Young. Okay, all agreed with the recommendations?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Councillor Radcliffe. I think that was then. And thank you for joining us, Judith. And we will now move on to our next report on the agenda, and that is a report on our budget consultation fit for the future. And I will ask our interim Chief Officer of Finance, Performance and Change to present this report. Jill, please.
Thank you, Leader. For the purposes of the recording, Interim Chief Officer, Finance, Performance and Change. Leader, do you want the presentation on the MTFS before the consultation, or do you want to move straight to the consultation?
Give us the bad news first, then. Jill.
I shall try and be upbeat. Give us the
presentation then, Jill. It's getting dark outside.
I shall try and be upbeat, but okay. And I'll do it really quickly because I'm conscious of time. I think Andrew's going to show the presentation on the screen, and I'll just whip through some slides just to put a context around it before. Is that okay, Nick? And then you come in with the consultation?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Great.
That's right, Jill. If you just bear with me while I present my screen.
And in answer to Councillor Reeves, as Andrew presents the screen, yes, we'll certainly get copies of the slides to all members of the forum, and to town and community councils through the clerks as well.
Right. Has it come up yet?
Yes, it has. We've also got the list of councillors on the left, so I think we've got a double screen. You probably need to just close that.
Right. Okay. Is that okay now?
No, we've still got both.
Right, okay, just bear with me. Is that okay now?
Yeah, we've got double screens, but let's see how it goes. Let's give it a whirl and see how we go. I'm going to have to say next slide, I'm afraid, each time.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so what we wanted to do very briefly was just take you through the position on the medium-term financial strategy, give you an update of where we are at this point in time, try to be upbeat as the leader has intimated. But it's really quite difficult, and I do understand that all of you as town and community councillors want more than anything some certainty, I know that you'll be going into your meetings wondering what the financial position is and how you're going to work out your own budgets. But believe me, I would love certainty as well. And I think as we go through this, I think you'll appreciate that it is an unprecedented year, as we keep saying, and a very, very unusual situation to be in. Normally by now we would be well ahead in our planning. We would have had a draft budget settlement from the Welsh Government, and obviously everything's been delayed this year, and we still don't know really what's ahead of us. So I'll just go through the slides very quickly. So first, Andrew, if you could. I'm a bit disadvantaged here. I should have shown my screen, really. So we've produced the Q2 revenue forecast, so I'll allude to that. The impact of COVID-19 can't be underestimated, and then our preparations for the MTFS for the period 2021 to 2024-25. Next slide. So this is what was presented to Cabinet on the 20th of October. You'll see the revised budget for each of the directorates, the projected outturn at Q2, and the likely over and underspend for 2021. And it's really unusual for Bridgend at this stage on Q2 to be forecasting a significant overspend. You'll see £3.5 million overspend on the directorate budgets. The council-wide budgets are currently showing an underspend, but I'll come on to the pressures that we're likely to face on those, and most of that will be taken up with pay awards. Next slide. Sorry, I'm trying to rattle through them because there's quite a few. So the financial impact of COVID, these are the sort of ways in which the council finances have been impacted. There'll be additional cost pressures. Some are one-off, some are recurrent. PPE, ICT, voids, etc. We've had considerable amount of lost income. Some, again, one-off losses, other deferred losses, so potentially may recoup that further down the line, maybe, maybe not. And others are permanent losses, obviously. The main areas, car parking, school meals, planning fees, etc. We had, as you will know, because many of you are also county councillors, you will know, oops. Right, the slides are back. You will know that we had a total savings for the year of 2.4 million. We are in a position where we were very lucky last year. We had a good settlement from the Welsh Government, and therefore we were able to scale down the savings that needed to be achieved. So quite a considerable amount of that will be achieved, but there is still a question mark over whether we'll achieve 100% at the moment because of obvious pressures from COVID. Unanticipated savings, unfortunately these are few and far between, but we will have made some savings on things like home to school transport, although we did have to support that to a 75% fee, premises and fuel. And council tax, there is likely to be a shortfall. We're currently running well over 1% down in terms of collection rate, and we obviously had to delay recovery, and there has been a considerable increase in council tax benefits from universal credit. And as we know, furlough is finishing this week, so we are anticipating, sadly, more people coming into the universal credit system. We've had a lot of support from the Welsh Government. Sorry, can you just go back to the slide, Andrew, that you showed?
Okay.
The next one. That's it. Thanks.
That's it, is it?
Yeah. Welsh Government has given us considerable sums of money. You will have seen the business rate grants where we had to we had to make sure that we supported businesses as quickly as possible, and we had to get over 30 million out of the door very, very quickly at the height of COVID, and that hopefully helped many of the businesses that you will be familiar with. We also had some small charities business rates grants, which we also made sure got to the right place. And then there's a whole list here of funding from the Welsh Government. This is obviously not all for Bridgend, I should add. This is across Wales, before everybody gets too excited. And you can see the whole breadth and depth of the funding that's been coming towards local authorities. However, I would say that we are still deep into the COVID situation, and it's how long that the Welsh Government will be able to support local authorities is more of a question, and therefore we have got some significant uncertainty going forward. Thanks, Andrew. So we've been submitting monthly claims for additional expenditure. The current position is that we've claimed about 6.5 million and we've been paid about 5 million, which is not a bad result. And there's very good reason why some things have been disallowed. Some is still, you can see a significant amount still pending review, and some is a part contribution. So we've had some ordinary running costs disallowed. The part contribution is towards our ICT. Obviously, we had a significant investment in ICT very, very, very quickly. But I think it's fair to say that we will get a slightly longer term benefit out of the kit that we've bought. And so the Welsh Government have agreed to fund 50%. That's across all 22 local authorities, not just Bridgend. And then we've got some discussions still ongoing on hub costs and free school meals. So still some to be played for, but this is up to Q2. Thanks, Andrew. Alongside the costs, there's loss of income submission for Q1. Q2 is due in this Friday. And we've had a claim, we've put in a claim for lost income of 2.5 million and been paid 2 million. So again, that's a very good result from Bridgend's point of view, and hopefully will continue into Q2. Next. So in terms of council tax, the support that we've given to residents, we've allowed people to defer their council tax to the latter part of the financial year. So if they've got significant difficulties, spread the council tax over 12 instead of 10 months. And all that will mean that hopefully we will start to climb our tax collection rate towards the end of the year. We've had limited recovery, only soft reminders initially, and at the moment it was 1% when we wrote these slides, but as of this morning we were about 1.45, which is a significant reduction. So around about 1.5 million at the moment. I mentioned the council tax reduction scheme. There has been significant increase in universal credit and housing benefit claimants. And the current estimate is that we're likely to be over budget by at least 300k, but it could obviously increase. Next month will be quite significant when furlough starts to unfold. Okay, sorry, Andrew. Okay, so the MTFS for 21-22 based on the following assumptions. The most likely scenario that we have modelled is -1.5, but I will come on to some slightly more optimistic scenarios in the next couple of slides. But if we work with those assumptions, then we need 9 million in savings next year and 35 over 4 years. The question that I suppose people are asking, is this still realistic following COVID-19? Have the council's priorities changed as a result? Is there any way that we can take money from some areas and put it into others? And I guess the other unknown is, what will the outcome of the comprehensive spending review mean for Wales? But obviously the Welsh Government haven't got a limitless pot, and so we do have to be pragmatic about what our AEF may be next year. Okay, thanks, Andrew. We've done that one. Oh, there we are. Our current funding is 203 million. As I've said, if we receive minus 1.5%, our funding would reduce by 3 million. And we've assumed an increase of 4.5% council tax at the moment in the budget. But if we were to take that council tax down, then we would need further reductions. So it's a very, very difficult balance to get at the moment with all the uncertainties. Thanks, Andrew. So the pressures facing the council, the longer term impact of COVID-19. I mean, I read somewhere that it's going to take 100 years to repay all the loans. We won't all be around to see that, but unfortunately there is going to be a huge long-term impact of COVID-19, and as we enter the recovery phase, the uncertainty of funding levels, the impact of Brexit, staffing costs, we've got an increase in the national living wage, the real living wage, and unknown pay awards, although but then we have got the NJC and now the teachers, both of which have come in higher than we projected. Obviously, inflationary pressures, they are low at the moment, but the contrary to that is that we're having to pay to invest some of our money, which is a bizarre situation that I never thought I'd find myself in. And obviously the impact of the second wave of COVID-19, that none of us know where that'll end. Next slide, Andrew. So the current position on the budget reductions shows a target of 9 million. We've identified 4 million, so we've got a 5 million shortfall. Over the longer term, you can see that we've got a significant shortfall if those figures stay as they are. In terms of the budget pressures, we put aside 3 million for budget pressures. We've got 9 million, and so we've got a significant shortfall again. So we're looking at a whole of about 11 million for next year alone at the moment. Okay, next slide. So, as the leader said, let's try and be optimistic about this. I'm pretty sure from all the soundings that we hear that we won't be in the far right corner of this, but we did model these because last year we did get around 4%. So if we were to get Welsh Government funding of plus 2%, then that would only give us a shortfall of 5 million. I say only, I can't take that very lightly. We've got to balance the budget early next March, obviously. And as you get up to the 4% funding, you'll see that we still have a shortfall, but it's much less significant. But you can see the sort of scale of funding we need to actually balance our budget. Okay, next slide, Andrew. So what we're doing at the moment as a council, obviously, you'll be aware of this, looking at the corporate plan and potential new priorities. Business and the economy has to be absolutely at the foremost of our minds. There are some real sort of pressures on homelessness, obviously, through COVID and now through the second wave, and new regulations that we need to adhere to help our clients. The health and well-being agenda, you hear that talked about every day in the news. Digitalisation is an opportunity, I believe. We have transformed things perhaps in a couple of weeks, a month, that might have taken us a couple of years previously, and there's huge opportunities, I think, for that, but we all need to be behind that agenda. And obviously council tax levels and where that's pitched. So those are the sort of thoughts that are going through, obviously, as a council. Next slide, Andrew.
I think that's it, Jill.
I thought that was, but I thought there's always that moment where you haven't got them in front of you, where you think there's another one. So that was a very, very quick skip through, Leader, and it was intended really to give Town and Community Council a flavour of what we're thinking, what we've got in front of us, and this sort of uncertainty, and I suppose to bear with us in terms of trying to give you some certainty at this stage, but just the sort of things that we're grappling with and how we can work together on them.
Yeah, that's very helpful, Jill. Are there any questions from members on that presentation? No? Okay. They're all struck by the presentation.
Yes, I'm sure. I wish I could be more optimistic and bring some light to the end of the tunnel.
Yes, 100 years to pay it back. Well,
yeah, I thought you'd like that, Leader.
Yeah, that's the optimistic, best case scenario, is it? Okay, well, we move on from the presentation. Thanks, Jill. And if members do have any questions after the meeting, please feel free to get in touch with Jill or a member of the team. So we'll now receive a report on the consultation on the medium-term financial strategy. So thanks, Jill, and over to you now, Nick, please.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Leader. Thanks, Jill. So the purpose of this report is to inform the Town and Community Council Forum of the Fit for the Future budget consultation for 2020 and to ensure effective engagement with the Town and Community Councils and local residents. And Jill has already done the presentation. So moving down to 3.1 and some background. So this report is in conjunction with Jill's presentation to inform you that every year the council need to carry out a consultation around the medium-term financial strategy. You'll all be aware of the success that we've had over the last few years with the consultation, and in 2018 we engaged with 5,288 residents through a variety of mechanisms such as face-to-face engagement, online and paper surveys, social media, council citizens panel. And in 2019, we increased that engagement to 7,437 interactions. So we're really proud of that engagement with our local residents. And last year we had the support of Town and Community Councils to help us to do that. So we aim to ensure that the consultation is as far-reaching as possible and are continuously looking at ways to improve how we participate and engage the public. This year, however, due to the impact of COVID-19, we realised that our capacity to engage face-to-face is greatly restricted. And with the current lockdown, obviously that's increased even more. So it is more important than ever that we work together to ensure that the voices of your communities and the community of Bridgend County Borough as a whole is heard as part of this process. So before last year, before we started to engage with town and community councils, what we used to do was just write to community councils to inform them of the consultation. But after feedback from 2018, last year, we actually came along and attended, I think, pretty much all town and community council meetings during the live period. I think there may have been one or two that we didn't attend, but it was very few. Where we gave an overview of the consultation. We arranged for paper copies and posters to be delivered to town and community councils where requested. And we are hoping that given the success of these engagement sessions, we are able to replicate this for 2020, albeit via remote meetings where necessary. So just to give you some kind of additional figures to that, so based on the fact that we engaged with over 7,000 people last year, just to show you some of the impact that we're already seeing on engagement this year. At the moment, we've been live a week, and we've only had 406 survey completions so far and 3 social media comments. So we've seen a huge decline in the amount of people that have started to engage with us early on in the consultation. We expected that, but we do need to kind of drive and work together to make sure that those people who do want to get involved have the opportunity to get involved, and hopefully we can do some of that work together. So moving on to 4.1, to make members aware that the time frame for the future budget consultation 2020 is the 19th of October to the 13th of December, so we're a week in. And we have 7 key areas this year. So we've got responding to the COVID-19 pandemic, business and the economy, health and wellbeing, customer access to civic offices, digitalisation, council tax levels and the future. And if you've already had the chance to have a look at the survey this year, it's got a very different feel to it. So it is very much asking people how they've been impacted by the pandemic, what council services they've accessed, what's been important to them, and how they see us kind of moving into the future. What services are the most important services to them as we move into the future. So we're not asking in the way that we have before to kind of choose between services, which services should we cut, which services should we save. It has got a very different kind of softer feel to it in terms of asking residents what's been important to them and what is important to them. So we have already engaged with town and community councils. So all of your town and community council clerks will have already received an electronic link to the consultation, an e-poster and the explainer video, and been informed that paper copies are available where requested. The consultation, as always, is available in a variety of formats, including online and paper. We've got standard, easy read, youth and large print versions, and all are available in Welsh and English. So during the live period, BCBC officers, so myself and Andrea, will be available to remotely attend town and community council meetings. And as I say, we've already liaised with town and community council clerks to arrange attendance at those meetings. We have already got a couple of meetings in the diary, but we are hoping as a result of tonight, we are able to get more invitations in so we can fill up our calendar through the live period so we can get out to as many events as possible. Unfortunately, meetings and events won't be able to take place after the closing date of the 13th of December, because we will then be pulling together all of the information, writing the report, and the MTFS budget consultation report will be presented to Cabinet in January. So it's a very tight time frame this year, a very tight turnaround for the report, but we do just hope that we can work together to get as many people involved as possible. So the recommendation is the Town and Community Council Forum receives and considers this report and gives consideration to engagement during the live period. And hopefully we can get some sessions in the calendar to ensure that, one, we engage with your town and community councils, but where relevant, also with your communities to make sure that they have their voices heard.
Thanks, Nick. That's very helpful overview of the report and the consultation process. That we will do our very best, won't we, to engage with our communities once again this year. It's going to have to be different, but it won't stop us trying. And I know that many town and community councils have embraced new technology and are holding, most are actually holding virtual meetings. Even my own Kevin Cribble Community Council have fully embraced the agenda, and we would welcome your attendance at one of those meetings, and we'll continue to explore different ways, won't we, Nick, to make sure that we reach out to people, even if they haven't got access to that technology. So we'll still use the citizens panel, and the citizens panel can be accessed virtually, but it can also be accessed via, and it is used by some citizen panel members via pen and paper through the post. So we'll continue to have those different routes available for people to take part in the consultation. Absolutely. Okay, are there any questions for Nick, please?
Rather than type, leader, and then you come to me, I was just going to ask Nick, has Bridgend Town Council responded yet? Because I have a Town Council meeting at 6 o'clock.
No, I don't believe they have.
Okay, I'll ask at 6 then. Thank you.
Thanks, Stuart. So if you could raise that with your relevant town and community councils. Obviously, most town and community councils don't meet on a weekly basis. Most of them will often only meet on a monthly basis. So it may be that you just haven't had a meeting since Nick has been in touch with you. But any questions, please give us a shout and encourage your town and community councils to take part. Are there any other questions for Nick? No?
The chair, just a question about this electronic link.
Right.
How are we going to develop it with the communities? Will they be informed, or what will happen? Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor Hussain. Nick, please, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, so all town and community councils have been sent the electronic link for the various versions of the survey. All of those links are also available on our website and have been shared on social media. What we're saying to town and community councils is if they would like paper copies of the survey, we can either send those to town and community councils or direct to residents, or anyone can get in touch with us and we can either send paper copies or send them emails of the online links. So we are really asking town and community councils to share this consultation for us, as well as get involved themselves, so that your communities become more aware and more involved in the consultation. So from a BCBC corporate social media and website perspective, they're all there. It's about asking kind of our partners and our community groups to get that information out to members as well.
Oh, thank you very much. That comes to the point, chair and a leader, that should there be some way we could have connection with all the community councils, or the clerks really, from the town council? Should we look into that, how to develop that?
Nick, do you want to come back on that?
Digitalization of all community councils with the county council.
Yes, the digitalisation, right? Okay. Well, maybe we can ask Jill to come back on that one. Jill.
Sorry, Councillor Hussain, could you just remind me of the question?
I was wondering whether there is a possibility of having digitalization by which we are connected between the council and the community councils, knowing that we are going through a very difficult stage, and it's a way of learning and progression for future years, really, that we are connected through this digitalized, whether that's a website, whether that's a email, anything which can put us together from community and the town, county council.
Yeah, we're bringing the digital strategy hopefully to the December cabinet for approval. I was going to say the November, but it may well be the November cabinet for approval, and from there on we'll roll out some of the issues in there. But it is about the citizen, it's about the digital place, and the digital users. So the whole of the county borough and the citizens and the town and community councils will be part of that digital strategy. It is about changing the whole way that we interact with each other. So what you're saying will be very, very pertinent to that, and making sure that all our town and community councils, and indeed our stakeholders and partners, are all properly connected. So there's a huge amount of work that's gone into the strategy so far, but there's an even greater amount of work to start rolling it out, and we will be setting up subgroups to focus on particular areas. So I'll take that back to the team. We've got a digital strategy board at the very beginning of November, so I'll take that back, Councillor Hussain.
Very grateful. Thank you very much. Thanks, Leader.
Yeah, thanks very much, Councillor Hussain, and thanks for that, Jill. Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, I think that cheery presentation, Jill, has given everyone plenty of food for thought.
Yeah.
Imagine over that.
Sorry.
And on a Monday as well, it's going to be a long week. Okay, if you do have any questions, then please do get in touch with Nick. And we've also made a commitment. I know this is something of interest to you all, and you're all committed to us engaging with children and young people. So that is an area where we're looking at working on once again by developing and strengthening links and having sessions with schools and with the youth council and with other youth groups as well. So if you think of any groups, and I know Andrew and Nick are really busy anyway, but they're always looking for more. I don't know whether they find time to sleep and drink and eat, but if you do think of other groups that would benefit, would want to take part in the consultation, then we want to reach out to those groups, don't we, Nick?
Sorry, I was just typing. So I'm just going to say, yeah, we'll happily attend any groups that would like us to go along and talk to them about the consultation. So we can actually go through the consultation with people, or we can just give them an overview and take comments and feedback, and then let people do the consultation documents in their own time. So more than happy, if you've got things happening in your communities, let us know and we'll come along to attend those.
Super, thanks very much, Nick. Well, there are no other questions, so can I just have someone to move the recommendations, please?
Leader, I'll happily move that report, but just to add as well, I don't want Jill to feel too depressed about it, because as County Borough Councillors, we've already heard this information, so you can't knock us down much further. So, so you know, there was only really 3 other people here that might not have seen that information before. I'm sure there would have been a lot more questions had there been a more representation, but we've already seen it, so we can't get too depressed about it again. No, so, no. But I'll move that report, Leader. Yeah, and you are right. I wouldn't want any of our town and community councils representatives here today who aren't county borough members to think that we haven't seen that, and
we're not asking questions. You can imagine it's occupying a huge amount of our time at the moment, and those questions have been asked in different different meetings. So thank you for that, Councillor Baldwin. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah, second, Leader.
Thank you for that, Mr. Mayor. Much appreciated. All agreed?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Hussain.
He speaks
That's what I'd like to hear. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Well, that takes us to the end of the agenda, because I haven't had any other reports or items that I've asked to be considered at today's meetings, and no urgent items. So thank you all for your virtual attendance. Is much appreciated, and we will certainly be making contact with our town and community council partners to make sure that in the future we have as many town and community council members along to this meeting as possible. Okay. Good night and thank you all.